Well, good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Carnegie Mellon University in Qatar. My name is Michael Trick. I'm the dean here, and it is my pleasure to introduce the final Dean's Lecture of the academic year. So the Dean's Lecture Series is a forum for community leaders to share their expertise on topical issues. Dean's Lecture Series has hosted some of the most influential speakers in all of Qatar and asked them to share their ideas and perspectives. Today's guest is no exception. Fahad Al-Sulaiti is the Chief Executive Officer of Education Above All, an organization that believes that education can inspire positive, sustainable, and inclusive change. Education Above All is the brainchild of Her Highness Sheikh Moza bin Nasser, who is also the co-founder and chairperson for the Qatar Foundation. Mr. Al-Sulaiti joined Education Above All in 2012, where and since then he has been instrumental in developing the foundation and maximizing its impact. Today, this unique and far-reaching foundation manages a portfolio of projects in 60 countries with more than 100 partners from around the world. During his time there, Mr. Al-Sulaiti has worked on strengthening the relationship with these 60 countries so Education Above All can make a significant and lasting impact. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Fahad Al-Sulaiti to the Dean's Lecture Series.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Dean, for this introduction. And I'm pleased to be today here, on the last lecture this semester. And this partnership with Carnegie Mellon is really started in 2016 with your universities, and we're having a number of students that been supported and being selected by Education Above All foundations because we believe that Carnegie have a unique studies that they have done, and we work very close with African leadership to host number of students here. And secondly, we have worked with Carnegie Mellon with Afghanis women that been hosted by Carnegie's, and I know that this year is the last year for this Afghanis who will be hosted, by university, and we hope that we can expand this partnership with Carnegie Mellon. And I know that we are either exploring with your team on some of the research on technology, and this is very important elements that we want to do. I'd like to thank the owners and having some ambassadors here with us from Morocco and Albania. Thank you very much, and all the guests has been here today. I will try to have a focus today. Really, most of people know who is Education Above All foundations, but we have a key elements that I want to emphasize on my presentation today, and then we'll be open for taking certain questions. Just before we move, I think Education Above All is not a charity foundation. We are more on making a change and development and overall in the world. And the very important points that we want to raise today is how to make this change. Otherwise, I think this would be unuseful to have, our commitment. And Her Highness, the founder and leaders of this foundations, she have a huge vision, huge, and it's pushing us very hard to make this change, worldwide. And that's why, as stated today, that we are over in 60 countries, but have we done the impact or no? I think this is the most questions. We're not focusing only on number of children and youth, but what the impact have been done inside these each countries, and if they are willing to do. This is a quick table of content that I will be presenting today, just to make sure that I take you through our quick journey. So as we can see, most of the people here are aware about Education Above All vision and strategy. Mainly it's providing quality education for young children and youth, but we are fighting for promoting and protection the right to education. And this is the most powerful policy that I'm been talking about. We focus a lot on the beneficiaries, multi-sectorial approach of partnership, and research on how we can do a result-oriented that we want to achieve during our journey. So the very important things is that how we can remove barriers. Barriers is really, we can see today, sometimes if you have any issues on health, it's a barrier to go to schools, how we can solve these things. We have a natural disaster, Just recently, we have seen a number of countries this year have been, and last year have been affected from natural disasters. Unfortunately, wars. We're living in an area, where we have Yemen, Syria, and lots of other countries really are suffering from this. And this is increasing the number of out-of-school children that we'll be talking about today. So how can we come over these barriers? How can we work together? So we have our own methodology, and this methodology is working in a number of areas how we are tackling. The whole ideas of what we are trying to do is leaving no one behind, from the children and youth. And how can we bring all access for quality education from people, our out-school children, is back to school. And not only this, we provide scholarship for a number of students, a unique student for the most marginalized refugees and youth around the world. And we're working now only for higher education around 11 to 12 countries. But we are providing either this young youth with the green skills educations, and this is something that we are focusing on agriculture. And this is some elements that I will be speaking about it today, and how can this affect the climate change aspect that we are working. So not only providing quality education, but as I mentioned, how we make the change in policy within the Ministry of Education in each country. We work very close with the ministry. We don't fund Ministry of Education. We fund only partners that work on the ground and making sure that this is aligned with the national plan for each country where we are working. This is some statistics showing a positive result. But as you can see in the first graph that we have, the net enrollment on the primary schools today is showing that since 1970, there are a good progress that have been increased, and we can see that enrollment rate having come to 89. And the gross enrollment ratio on the secondary education is showing, again, a good progress from 1970 to 2021. But the gap is still big. Yes, we have a good progress, but we have almost 250 million are still out-of-school children. And this is really big numbers. And our ideas is really how to cover, and this is when we say the policy change, how we can go and find the ways of closing this gap that we want to do. So there are outline of 20 countries, and 16 is in Africa. Okay, as you can see, we have 3 from Asia and 1 from Europe. And from Asia, 1 country is taking almost a quarter, okay, of a huge number of primary age, taking, and this countries, the numbers is not changing, and we need to figure out why these numbers. So there are huge number issues of the data issues around the world, okay? And we will see that this numbers is not realistic still, because some data shows that the number of population since 1970 till now being changed huge. You can see it taken in Egypt now, okay? We can see that only 10 years, there tens of millions have been increased on number of population in Egypt. So this is just a small example, all right? What about people are really refugees and IDPs are movable, and countries cannot start counting them. And the main issue on that, why the data have issue, because there are no strong registration on birth registration on these countries. So we are trying now to figure out on this data, how could we fix it? How can we work very close with each ministries on going through this element? So our role now, we are working on number of strategy, and one of the strategy is to try to give a good models, as we're working on the zero out-of-school children in selected countries. So we have started this strategy 4 or 5 years ago with one of our program, Educated Child, and this is emphasizing on really getting the issue of access to education, getting the retention, how we can keep the children there, and fixing the data issues inside these countries. 2 of their country, we discover there are more out-school children than we have targeted. And this is positive signals. This means that, yes, we are now discovering who is additional are behind of our list, our data, and this is where we go beyond. So I think this is where we are today since 2012 under the leadership of Her Highness Sheikh Hamza bint Nasser. We have committed almost close to 15 million out of school children. I think we have done an impact on 60 countries, and we leverage with our partners more than $3 billion. And when we started, there was a huge challenge, of we going to achieve this commitment by co-financing or no. But having said that, as you see, I just will go back to this 25 million, of out-of-school children. Yes, we have done the impact on the primary age, but since we started 2012, there was no war in Syria. There was no war in Yemen. Only these two countries taking 5 to 6 million out-of-school children, and this is a big issue that we are really keeping suffering. And I'm just taking our neighbors, but still, if we go over worldwide, you will see there are still huge numbers of data that's having out-of-school children has been increasing. And that's why, we need to take it from a global level of how to fix these things. Not only by project-based, but I think there are lots of elements that we need to think about together, trying to find the solutions to this. That's why we are here today in such big university of looking of these key things. So education in development countries is really making a crucial on this, and I'm sure that everyone aware of why education is so important. So education is really increasing the GDP by 5 to 15%. This is showing a big statistics on how things could be changed. And additionally to this, how can we increase? There are a huge number of increase in populations, but how can we divide these things and take it forward? This is a huge commitment that we want to work on that element. So we're talking about education as one of the components, and always people saying that education is a priority, but we believe education is the top priorities for all the sustainable development goals. There are 17 sustainable development goals within the United Nations, and what we have seen and what we improve is that education is the heart of all the 17, starting the solutions from the poverties to hunger to health and all the others, as you can see. And climate change, there are lots of wave of talking about climate change as priority, but we believe people are not well educated what the climate changes mean. But how to do this will be coming through education. This is what we believe, the strongest way that how to educate every child and every youth of the importance of all this aspect through education. And this is the one that we are working on hard, and to make this sustainable development goals as the key indicators for us and the globe. So there are key ideas that we have worked in it, and understanding innovation and education is key. One goes beyond technology. Education is not mean the technology that we want to work, and how we are doing this. There are alternative path of education that we are currently providing, and to provide this there are lots of paths. For example, we cannot keep building only infrastructures for children, but there are different paths that we can go to let these children have concrete studies. So there are a couple of things that I put it. I will not go through one by one, but the very important things is that how innovation can support us of scaling and going beyond the commitment that we have today, because the resource is very limited. And unfortunately, I just last week I was in the spring meeting with the World Bank and the IMF and IDB, and there was a huge talk about there are 30 to 40% decrease on the commitment of the ODAs. And this will create a big gap now. A lots of big development agencies in the world are reducing their commitment to Africa, to Asia. Why? Because there are lots of other things is going on in the world, and they shift their priority. Ukraine take lots of huge priorities for the ODAs to go and to shift their priority there. This is just a small example. We understand the priority is there. It is important. But this means there will be creating a huge gap, in these countries like Africa, like Asia. How can we solve this issue? How can we come together on trying to find the best solutions for this? This is for us is a very key component that we want to work on. Other components is how when we are doing the implementation on the project base, how we work on the cultures wise, how we work in this context base. So, for example, if we are providing educations in some places where in Africa or in Asia, how we can go and to do a personalized learning. We were talking today about some elements, of working on the personalized things, how we can focus together on giving the right education, the right context for this children. For example, someone having a farms close to them, how they can plant this farms, how they can, this is some elements that we want to give. Why? Because we are thinking about the future for the students. The future is how they can get to be employed. Because there are a huge gap now between education and employment. And we can see that either this number in the employment is more, unfortunately, the unemployed between education and employment. And the issue is that we are seeing is that there are no strong link between the context, cultures, and what we've been studying in education and the needs in each countries. So each countries have different needs. We cannot combine everything together. So for education above all foundation, we work a lot on the number of innovations, ways of doing things, and we've been, either for us was a lesson learned. This 14 years that we started implemented, our projects and working, we keep changing. We don't have one standard way of doing things. And one of the things that we are focusing this year is a lot on the innovative for financing. There are huge issues going on, on this aspects. How we've been very innovative. What mean innovative for financing? For example, one of the major things that we are working, we have seen lots of countries are really collapsing now because the debt issue after COVID. They cannot go back, and their debt is really going up and up. And after 2 years of a grasp, been giving to them, all right, people were saying, oh, we should pay now to this development banks, to IMF. There are huge commitment that we need to do. And this means that we need to do our cut on our budget on the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Health. And sorry, we are reducing your budget. This means that there will be huge commitment that will be going from the Ministry of Education to pay the loan that have been due now. So what we are talking now with lots of top countries like G20s, talking with the World Bank and IMF and others, we need to think about innovative financing. We need to think about debt relief issues. We need to give a relief to certain countries who have been in good progress. And I think this is, for example, that we have pushed a lot of countries, and we keep voting for this since 2015. Countries need to have a commitment for education, 20% of total budgets, especially for education. And we have seen countries like Ghana have done a great progress to this. Now they are almost 22%. And we have the president a couple of years here. He announced this during WISE, when we have here in Qatar. And this was a very good example country that we work together. But what happened after COVID? The countries collapsed because the huge debt and the payments to become now to go. So how can we work with these countries? What we need to go to talk to the creditors of this country to say, oh, we need to look at this. How we can support Ghana. Because they were saying that, oh, we cannot make the commitment. We need to reduce the commitment from 22% to 8%. And this means a huge will be gap on educations. They need to fire teachers. They need to close schools. They have big issues on the university paying salaries for lots of people. All what they've been planning will go now. So how can we go to such big countries that been supported and been giving them the guidance that we need you to do this, but when they're failure, we need to support them and come together. I think this is very, very, very innovative way. Just last week during the spring meeting in World Bank, Qatar have made the first debt relief for education for the first country, which has been announced for Sierra Leone, and we are part of that. So the idea is that what will happen is that we will be giving the debt relief for Sierra Leone through state of Qatar, and they will be allocated the money from their budget to our project in Sierra Leone. I think this is a model that what we want to do, because we don't want people to issue the money outside because issue of currencies and increasing all these things. But the good ideas is that how we could make everything within the system, within the allocated, reducing the burden on the countries, surviving them, and giving them the space. And what we have agreed either with the World Bank now and Sierra Leone, that this debt relief, it will be a conditional that they don't take a loan for a certain period and give a space inside the Ministry of Finance, of managing their budget within their cash flow that they have. So that's why I'm saying our role now is a policy change on each country. Our role is how to manage, to let the countries. There are huge commitment on the financing. Is we have seen, I was in OECD last month, and I've seen that the countries have spent, for example, $1 billion with the same number of population, and the efficiency of the two countries is huge. It's 80% between two countries. We can see, one country is really doing it very well, above the average, and spending the same money, but we see other countries is below the average, and they're spending the same money with the same number of population. There are huge questions on that, why this is happening. So how can we fix all these things, and how can we really come together trying to find the right solutions to this country to work on their efficiency, because this is a big issue that everyone need to work on it. So we go beyond the schools, beyond the classrooms, okay? There are lots of alternative way of how we do learning and support beyond the class. I mean, a lots of initiatives. We don't work very close. We work very close with our partners, we don't tell them what the way they should do. They give us the proposal, we design with them how this need to be done, and based on the cultures, based on the context, based on the village that this will be worked, this is how we give the space for others to be very innovative, very creative, and make on the same cultures that how this will be working. For example, we have one of our program, Al-Fakhura, we work on education, of creating really a good way of higher educations, but we try to link this with our sister foundation, Al-Sulaiti, of making sure that what we are giving in higher education is linked with the employments. And this is very key components of linking things together. We need to emphasize on this, and we go now beyond the vocational training. We change from vocational training to skills. There are a huge gap between vocational training and skills. Skills is that really people going in the ground, making the things different. And this is what we are trying to provide it now with the youth. There are lots of alternative ways, of path or that education we can work on it. And I think either where we are today here, Carnegie Mellon is working on lots of path of educations, and all the students here making a big difference. And that's why we need you to think with us of how we're trying to solve the issues. We want your recommendation. We want your thoughts from the technology to financing to alternative path. This is what we are working. We have worked with the Internet Free Education Resource Bank. This was during COVID, and this is offline technology. So you don't need to be online 24 hours. It's just one time, and you need to be offline, because we know that the big issues in the internet access about the world is really a big issues, and still it's high cost for a region like Africa and Asia. And this is the resources that we've been provided, and we have reached really millions of downloads and end users that been and this has been very successful. But this is not only the way that we want it to be done. So what we need is really to think about beyond these resources of going with each student and each teachers to find a way. And this resource is not provided only for the student, but either for parents. So during COVID, how you can deal with your parents, and this was very key and important component that we have added to this things. So we will talk about just very quickly about our new strategy and promoting change and this is what I started today, how we want to do a big impact. And what we are trying now to do is to do this impact, we need to work with the national plan with each countries and making sure that each project that we are implementing is making a different and impact on the countries. I don't want to go for a country where they have a huge gap and I'm doing only 100 students there and they have millions out of school children. Okay, so what we want is really to do a reasonable, I will call it a percentage of impact. Either I do the zero or I make the big change, or I do a small change, but I will give a model for the ministries to make this change. And I think this is very important way that how we want. We leverage our resources, not only with NGOs or UN agencies, this is our partners, but we expand this beyond this. We go with lots of development banks. Only this month, we're signing with a huge commitment with leveraging with World Bank, Inter-American Development Banks in Haiti, and on Saturday we'll be having a huge commitment with Islamic Development Bank. So with these development banks, we are trying to shift their priority from infrastructures, okay, to a normal standard way that they do things, to make their priority education as top priorities there. And through this, we do a lot of other multi-sectorial approach that we are bringing, as I show it to you today for the SDGs. We work with a lot of partners like NGOs and UN agencies, as important partners, especially during the war. We work, most of the real partners that we work with them is the UN agency, where they have a huge access, especially in Syria or Yemen. These countries that we have real partners that could work together with us. And we work a lot of the advocacy part, on the protection of education. And this is a key component that started. The education above all is being created in the beginning is for advocacy part, for really promoting educations, but how to protect education from attacks. And this is something that Her Highness is huge commitment, for her to make this change on the protection of education. And we work with a very strong resolution with the Security Council in 2021 to make this change. And I think that we have succeeded, and we're doing a good progress on where we are today. So the future trend and strategy outlook. I think the very important things is that we are looking for as education landscape and development countries and involving and by driving technology advance. There are lots of talk now about AI and how that's important, how AI can make a change in the world. Yes, this is key. It's key important elements to have AI. But the way that we are working, the countries where we are today, it doesn't fit 100%. We tried. We spoke with lots of our partners. The AI is good on the way of well-developed countries, but still we need teachers with a student. They need a literacy. We need to know how to write, how to read, and AI cannot only help in that. This is need to big scales. This is different ways that how we do different things. We decentralize education, different aspect that we are working. So number of things and how we can enhancing the very important things for any out-school children. We're targeting students, for example, 10 years old, which is he passed now 3-4 years, not to go to the primary education in grade 1. The first thing that we need to start is the mental health for these educations, for the students. How can we bring him back? How he can be accepted to go back with the number starting with the grade 1. How can we emphasize him and let either their family encourage them to go, let their children go back to school. And the very important thing is community engagement on that. We have done, in all our projects, community is the base for making the change. So not only the program, but really the community. The leaders of this community is very important and encouraging. And I would like to conclude here, of number of things that we're really working on. I've spoken most of the things, but due to the time, I would like to give the chance to some of the students here or faculties, or I can see some of the EA staff here. Please, I will come for any questions, and I'm happy to answer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. That's a wonderful talk about just an amazing program. We have time for some questions, and so we have 2 microphones set up, one on the left and one on the right. And so if you would like to stand in front of one of them, they would be, Mr. Al-Sulaiti, I'm sure, will be happy to answer some questions. So.
Hello, thank you for taking the time. I thought your presentation was very impressive. I have a question around your approach to working with partners instead of working directly with governments. An example you gave was in the case of Sierra Leone, where you're able to, for example, get the government to, instead of sending the money out to service debts, that money is being redirected towards education. So that for me is an example of where partnership with the government worked very well. So I'm curious to know why you would not take the same approach and instead choose to work with partners. Thank you.
Thank you. So, your question is that why we are working with the partner, not supporting the government, but supporting the partners?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And it's a very concrete questions for us. As we started with this methodology because we believe strongly that the partnership and scaling, with number of partners, is that to put a strong commitment. We don't want to put our projects, because each country have their own way of doing things, and we want to do it on different approach. Okay, we need to align with the national plan. This is very important. So each project is to fulfill the commitment that we have, but we have a niche. And this niche, not all countries have the same niche. Our niche is really focusing on access for quality primary education for out-of-school children. A lots of countries pushing us on different approach. For example, okay, they want us to support existing curriculums, existing schools, building a new only infrastructures for specific target people that they have on their list. But this is not our niche. Our niche is really focusing on access for out-of-school children. And the other things is very, very key components that we want to add is that how to make this niche happen is really, and how we can control all the spending. For us, we go through a difficult and I would not say difficult in us, but difficult in the partner sometimes, because our specifications is really very tough on the financial aspect and technical aspects. So when we selected the projects, we have a number of requirements that we have to be fulfilled, and each partner that is sending their money, or we exchange with them, is that we have specifications that we give it to them. If you don't achieve this target, if you don't do X, Y, Z, you will not be paid for that. So that's why, we're trying to do these things. But the very important elements is that for us to encourage other co-financing, we only, as you see today, $3 billion, but our commitment is only 36% of this commitment. Because we give the credibility to leverage the remaining money, within our partners to bring it to them. If we go directly to governments, it will be a huge gap, and we cannot control our money, because the government is, the money going to the Ministry of Finance, we don't have a control on it. So that aspect that we are following. But thank you, it's very critical. And we've been asked a number of times to change this methodology, but we said we never change it. This is our approach. This is how we should continue doing things. We want to really measure the impact that we have. And then we will not be innovative too, for change. Thank you. Yes. Maybe Nasser, you need to clear.
Where are you?
Yes.
Yeah, and when we deal with the partners, if they have, like they're an INGO in this country and they have a successful intervention and they can use this successful model in other countries, if they're working in other countries, so our impact that way, we have a partnership with the goals, us and the partner, not only at a country level. We're using it from project to project, and it enhances that way. It opens more doors for them.
Any other questions from a student sitting there?
I just wanted to ask, what do you think as students who might be interested in helping the community or taking part in some initiatives by EA, what do you think we could do here at CMU?
Thank you very much. A lot. Really, there are lots of things. And we have a program, call it Youth Program, and Education Above All Foundations. And we have a number of the youth from Carnegie, Mellon, and all our universities within Qatar Foundations. We work with lots of ideas, lots of initiatives. There are lots of theses that have been given to us, how we can implement things differently from the ground. And I remember that 2 or 3 students from our youth advocates have given us a lot of great ideas, and we make the change on the ground. So please, we are very open, and we have colleagues here sitting in Education Above All. You can apply for our youth engagement. So we do lots of things, and not only this, we will support you too to work within Education Above All. So we go to lots of places. You can visit our projects. So, and you can be engaged directly with us to make this change. So the future is really to look to such students who can make very innovative way to make this gap that we have today. 250 million children that need access, but they need innovative ideas from you to come to us to make this whole change. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Oh, again, an amazing organization. So we have a little memento to recognize your dean's lecture. If we want to sit over here. Thank you. That concludes today's Dean's Lecture. I invite you to some light refreshments out at the back. And that is the last Dean's Lecture for this semester. Please look for us again in the fall, where we will have another set of interesting and influential speakers come into the building. Thank you all very much for coming out today.